can Nebraska tackle in space and play with the physical chip that we saw last week? I think they can.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what Colorado showed at TCU is honestly the best case scenario. I mean, Nebraska is locked in. I mean, they know. I mean, it's like they're getting off in a war zone, and they know that they're going at a really, really good opponent.
100. I mean, there's benefits to seeing Colorado and understanding, okay, this is a game. I think TCU probably took them a little lightly. Sonny Dykes said that Colorado's effort was better, that there was more want to from Colorado. TCU tackled badly. That was a bad TCU tackling game. It was. Sonny Dykes called out his players for it. And Nebraska, Sean's exactly right. They have to tackle in space. I'm not saying they have to go sack Shedeur Sanders 7 times. You won't. But they got to get some pressure. You got to win some one-on-one battles up front. And you got to make sure, by the way, that little Hankerson doesn't get going. They're running back.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think they put Dylan Edwards back there. They put Dylan Edwards back there, too.
How about that kid?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure who – I don't know. I'd have to look at it. But you can't let them get going on the ground. So, yeah, there's a lot to that. There's a lot to the defensive conversation. It's going to look a lot different than Minnesota.
And I also think, too, though, with the can't let them get going on the ground, I think you kind of maybe want to get them out of their element a little bit. They threw the ball all over the field.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe try to make them run it. Make them shorten the game. Make them put together a methodical drive.
It always scares me to say, let them run it.
Well, not to let them run it,
Right.
but don't overcommit.
Right.
Because they got playmakers all over the field,
Yeah.
and they got a scheme that gets them open,
Yeah.
and a quarterback that finds them.
You're listening here to the Husker Online show. It's interesting. Nebraska's had some players on the roster that have played against Colorado before. Quentin Newsom was at that game in 2019. You're Ethan Piper this week.
Yeah.
On the flip side, I'm just going to guess, but do you think there's any players on this Colorado roster that were even in the stadium for that 2019 game?
No.
They have 3 returning starters. I don't know exactly who they are.
2019?
It would require you to be a 5th-year player on a 6-year COVID clock, which there's a chance, but
probably not, though.
I would be stunned.
But it's this kind of crazy, the tale of these 2 programs. And
it is.
And what Deion Sanders has pulled off with putting this offense together, like, it's not like something everybody could do. I mean, I think so many critics and skeptics of what that people expected it to be unorganized, sloppy, right. Just mistakes being made. You give Sean Lewis a lot of credit. You give the staff a lot of credit. Sean Lewis is the offensive coordinator, came from Kent State. And the scheme makes a lot of sense in altitude because they're moving fast. But they weren't in altitude in Fort Worth, and it looked great. But I would emphasize it was clean. I mean, they looked right away in the first quarter. That's what struck me. Like, wow, it does look organized. Mm-hmm. They're not jumping. They don't look sloppy. And then I thought, okay, maybe they just had a good first quarter. Continued.
Just kept going.
Continued.
Their offensive line coach, Bill O'Boyle, was the longtime Shattern State head coach, offensive coordinator. He was at Shattern State from 94 to 2011. He was Danny Woodhead's coach.
I'll be damned.
And he's a good coach. I mean, you always hear, they hired, that's the other thing that he's not getting as much credit for. They hired a good staff there.
Oh, they did.
Tim Brewster's the tight ends coach.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
He's been around.
That's not to compare tight end coach hires, but right. Tim Brewster recruited Vince Young to Texas.
Yeah. There you go.
And he was he was the head coach of Minnesota.
Say no more.
But to your point with the way that they've handled their roster, you're right. There's very few people in football that could recruit at the level that Deion Sanders is because of who he is and what he's accomplished and the respect that name carries, especially with the players and the types of players that he's recruiting. I mean, there's a direct connection where all of a sudden Colorado became a destination for guys that otherwise would not have considered that school whatsoever. And so any other coach is going to have a real hard time following that blueprint because, you got to have connections and you've got to have a presence to where when you walk into a living room, kids from all over the country are going to listen regardless of where you're coaching.
Can 99% of people even name the previous 2 Colorado head coaches?
One of them Michigan State.
Carl Durrell and
Mel Tucker, and then Tucker.
McIntyre.
And Mel Tucker.
Yeah.
I mean, but like I said, I mean, most people can't even name those.
No. And now I think, have we reached our threshold of Dion praise now? Should we back off?
It gets people get mad about it.
I know they do.
The point is about what their plan of how you compare it to what Matt Rule is doing. That's what I think makes it such an intriguing matchup. Is you have the long-term traditional build, and then you have the immediate quick fix. And so what is going to be more sustainable?
Here's the thing, though. I wonder if Prime would have done this if they were coming off of a 5-7 season. Would he?
Yes.
You think so?
Yes.
Now they lost last year by an average of 29.2 points.
Yeah,
I just wonder if he looked at it and said, I can't win with these guys. What if he had guys he thought he could win with? Would he have come to Nebraska and blown it up? See, I don't know, because you could go to Nebraska and look, I have some pretty good players here. Would he have blown Quentin Newsom out of the program? Would he have blown, Marquise Buford?
He wouldn't have been allowed to blow it up.
Yeah,
like, you don't come to Nebraska and do that sort of thing. You can go to a place like Colorado where they have nothing to hang their hat on, and then you can do that sort of stuff. They needed that. They needed him to make it Deion Sanders' football team, not the University of Colorado.
I think this is the perfect market for his style too. It's kind of a pro sports market. It's a bigger city. Metro. I mean, it's just got some swag to it. Like if he was at Mississippi State or like Texas Tech, I don't know if it would work as well. But I just think the whole picture of where it's at, and there's a little bit of history to Colorado football too. At least you got Eric Bieniemy in the NFL as an offensive coordinator. There's a history to their program.
For sure. I just wonder if it's just purely situational. If he went in there and said, this program is awful. How do you lose by 29 points a game? That's by far the worst, by 10 points. He just look at it and say, I can't do it with these guys. He's pretty smart. He's proven to be pretty
sugarcoat
smart.
it either.
No, he didn't.
I mean, he comes in the first meeting and just says, and I bring my own luggage.
Yeah. See, I just wonder if it's situational. That's what I wonder. If this would, I don't know that this would be his formula everywhere. Just blow at everything.
Like if he took over Florida State.
Right. So I think it was large. I don't know if you want to do what he did. It's really hard to do. And I do think Deion Sanders is sort of a traditional football guy. I mean, that's the way his teams play. I mean, just look at his teams, the way they play. I watched Jackson State 2 games. They weren't freaky. They were a tough football team. I mean, it wasn't gimmicky football.
Was Colorado tough on defense on Saturday?
Well, I mean, yes.
They didn't win that game.
They got some stops late. I would say this. They got some stops late. When Klatt was saying TCU just needs to run the ball.
And what they do? They threw the
ball.
Them.
Well,
they threw the ball. On that final drive, they threw the ball in every play.
No, TCU ran on first down twice. They didn't get first. They didn't get anything.
All right. That defense isn't tough.